Good morning. Thank you so much for stepping into my Queendom for another exciting episode of Queening with the Empress with me, your host, Patient's Pet, Phiri. My guest today, I came to know about her when she was arrested, and there was a drive to get her home to her children. And that is when I came to know about the woman, because she was a force then. And I was wondering, who is this woman? Who is this woman that everybody's talking about? She has 5 children. She needs to go home. And then that is when I knew her name was Linda Masarira. And then now I know she's got a second name, Utsingirirai. And I've been in spaces with her before. I had never had the opportunity to ask her for an interview. So when she popped up in a space I was in, I womaned up and I asked her for an interview, and she said yes. So if you have been living under a rock or something, and you don't know who Linda is, she's a very colorful person. She's very outspoken, and she's a mother of 5. She's a proud mother of 5. She calls herself a Mambo Kadzi. She's a human rights defender, a freedom fighter, a radical feminist, political development, social, economic rights activist. I need to get everything. And she is the president for Labour Economics and African Democrats-led party. Welcome. Did I get everything?
You did get everything absolutely right. If it was an exam, you would have had 100%.
Thank you so much. Okay, tell me, Linda, tell me about your childhood.
I think I was just an extrovert. I was very loud. And I remember my mother used to say, not totally hysteric, but I've always been that person who speaks out about what she believes in. I'm not a person who follows the crowd, even if it is going in the wrong direction. I'm one person who always stand up and say, this is wrong and this is right. And that's just how I've been, even when I was growing up. I remember when mothers sometimes when visitors come, they're trying to set their own narrative. I was the type that would champion and say, mama, and then mama would look at you with that eye, that eye that our parents used to look used to use on us. And I think I was born in 1982, which makes me 38. And I learned at Harlingbury Primary School in Queencroft from grade 1 to grade 7. I went to Marlborough High School. I went to Chipindra High School for my A-levels. And I was just that person who thought outside the box. And I wrote my first book, which is still unpublished, when I was in grade 7. I'm a writer. I love writing. I read a lot. I'm a bookworm. And I was never that person who had time to go and play around with other children, as I spent most of my time researching. And my dad taught me to read newspapers when I was in grade 3. So every time I'd come from work, you'd ask me what's happening, what's happening in Zimbabwe, what's happening in South Africa, what's happening in UK. That was my dad. I mean, he helped me to be open-minded. He helped me to be inquisitive. He taught me to want to know about what was happening in my surroundings, and I'm proud about him. And I grew up being daddy's girl. Maybe that is why I'm a bit tomboyish, but I've been changing over the years from being a tomboy to being more feminine. And I think that was just Linda in her childhood.
Okay, and then you worked as a train woman. What does a train woman do?
Maybe I should start from, I'm a computer technician by profession.
Okay.
And when I joined the National Relations of Zimbabwe in 2006, I was in the IT department. And then chance happened around 2007, there was an advertisement for a conductor of all jobs. But because I had a passion for trains, I took it up. And I just spent about, I think 7 months working as a conductor before another advert came for a guard special, which is the assistant of the train driver, the one who's responsible for the train, the owner of the train who's responsible for train movement. I took it up, and eventually I became a train woman. I was now in charge of the whole running of trains. And I was really proud of my job. I loved it. It was challenging. I would think at that time I was the only woman doing that job, turning off points, ensuring that the train is in good condition, fixing the train when it when there's a breakdown in the section and all that. It was really a challenging job, which I loved, but unfortunately I got laid off by the SWA judgment on the 31st of July in 2015. But for me, I think it was my journey. You know, everyone has got a journey, everyone's got a story, and I was supposed to go through that, face the labor injustices in Zimbabwe, for me to be able to speak out against them and continue advocating for them, because workers continue to be harassed, sexually exploited, harassment at the workplace, and labor injustice continues to be the order of the day, whether it's in the public sector, private sector in Zimbabwe. No one respects a worker in this country, and that is one thing that I continue fighting for, that there will be no development as long as workers are being ill-treated and being looked down upon. And maybe that is the reason why our party starts with labor, because I'm really passionate about labor issues. And until Zimbabwe starts respecting workers and ensuring labor justice for all laborers, that's when maybe I will take my rest.
Okay, so was this the time that you then started organizing demonstrations, that you wanted to speak out and fix some of these things that you've mentioned? Uguti workers were not being respected and all those things?
Actually, the first demonstration I organized was in 2003 when I was the sales administrator, systems technology. We'd gone for about 3 months with no salaries, and I had the courage to mobilize everyone and say, this is just not it. We've got rights. How are we supposed to survive? And I was fired by Daniel Shumba, who fortunately or unfortunately enough is now also a president of a political party. And I'll hold him to account for that, because he also still owes me money years later. He did not pay me, but now he's advocating to be the president of Zimbabwe. And I don't know how you will be ensuring that all civil servants are paid when he's still owing his former systems technology workers money. So for me, I think it's a passion. I hate oppression with a passion. I hate suppression. And what I realized during all my working years is that workers are not allowed to speak out. They're not even allowed to express themselves. And there's still a mentality in our employers that when you're working, you're fortunate. You're like in a privileged position. And the moment you want to speak out, you're reminded that there are plenty of other people without jobs. But I'm one person who will never let that define me, because the first thing that I would do every time I got a job was to ask for my job description. Maybe it's because that I also have a diploma in human resources management and all that, and I understand things to do with personnel management. And I'm one person who has never done anything that was out of her job description, because I would say, this is my job description, this is what I'm going to do. And I was actually controversial the first day I joined the NRZ after I'd finished all the medical tests and everything, and they told me that I had gotten the job. I asked for a job description. And I'll tell you, that job description was not available. And this is one of the biggest parastatals and institutions in Zimbabwe, but they did not have a job description ready. And I told them that I was not going to start the job without a job description, because I needed to know what my job was. So you'll find that this is just not unique to the NRZ, but it happens in most workplaces where people just go to work and their bosses will expect them to cook tea when their job is not to cook tea. And if you do not, prepare tea, if you don't prepare the tea, you can actually be charged. But most people don't know that when you're maybe, for example, I was a sales administrator at Systems Technology. My job was not to prepare tea for the boss. My job was to ensure that I sell computers, that my tenders are in place and everything else. And preparing tea wasn't my duty. But because of ignorance, a lot of people will run around and even be sent to go and buy Coca-Cola because they don't know what their job description is. So at the end of the day, there's still a lot of education that needs to go to a lot of workers in Zimbabwe, that before you start work, you're supposed to be given your job description. So when I was at NRZ, you know what happened during 2007, 2008? Employers stopped paying salaries, and I think that was the worst time in my life, because I remember by the time we did our first demonstration, which was led by me, then I was the president of a trade union. It was called Trainmen Workers Union. I did the unimaginable, because the last protest that had happened in the NRZ had been done in 1998. And after that, I think maybe because the ruling party and the government had realized the power that the NRZ had to influence labor issues, they had ensured that they had militarized the NRZ. There were a lot of military personnel, from the general manager himself, the late Mike Karakadzai, So a lot of people were living in fear. They would not even express themselves. They'll just say, at least I've got a job. But I came in and said, no, 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 no. And I remember the late Ekomoto didn't even want to see me. He would make sure that everything was in place, because I really made sure that our salaries were paid, even though sometimes they were delayed. We held our first protest in 2009. And I remember that day the police came, there was tear gas. And I mean, it was really something else. And the police in Blawayo were looking for me for 2-3 days. That is when I was abducted for the first time. And I was made to go under through conditions that I did not even know existed. But I kept on telling them that I was a worker. I was fighting for my rights. I was fighting for my money. But what I went through during that time, the brutality, just gave me more power to fight for what I believe in. Because I told myself that I was not a slave, I was employed, and I was working for a parastatal, which is quasi-government. And there was no reason for me to be silenced because I was demanding my money after going for about 11 months without a salary. So it made me become more radical, more angry, because I felt like I was being suppressed in my own country, where I was supposed to live a comfortable life.
Mm.
But I eventually got fired for that because I kept on organizing. I kept on ensuring that our salaries came on time. And that is something that employers don't want in Zimbabwe. They're comfortable with oppressing workers and telling them that will fire you. And unfortunately enough, Nelson Chamisa and Thabani Mpofu were foolish enough to do that Zua judgment, which supported the sacking of workers on 3 months notice, and hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans lost their jobs. And to date, they've not apologized for that. Their lawyers, and also Chamisa, coming from a Labour-backed party, should have known the consequences of representing those two Zua managers and ensuring that they would get laid off on 3 months notice. And now everyone is just being fired at 3 months notice. At least back then, workers had job security, but now no one has got security. If you just do what the boss doesn't want, you're given a notice and you're laid off. Thanks to Thabani Mpofu and Nelson Chamisa. And that's a story that Zimbabweans don't want to talk about. But I'll hold it against them until the day I die, because some people even died. And to date, a lot of them did not even receive their retrenchment packages or the money that they were being owed. And if Chamisa wants to do right by the people of Zimbabwe, he should at least try and ensure that those people who have still not yet received what they are owed get their monies. I'm trying my best. For my part, we formed an association of retrenched and retired workers in Zimbabwe. We're trying to ensure that everyone who was laid off with the Zwa judgment gets their money. And we owe that to the people of Zimbabwe. Everyone should receive what they're owed. And just because they got laid off, it doesn't mean that they should not get what they owed. It's their money, they worked for it, and they've got a right to it.
Okay, so I hear you. I'm bringing it back to you because I want you to tell your story. I'm bringing it back to you now. We bring it back to you. When did you have your children? So when you were organizing the first demonstration, and did you have your children then?
When I organized the first demonstration at the railways or at systems technology?
At the railways.
At the railways. Okay, I had my first child when I was 17. I was raped and the guy was arrested, and unfortunately I got pregnant. And by the time I organized the first demonstration, that was in 2009, I had 3 children.
Okay. And do your children know what a powerhouse you are? Do they know who you are, or you're just mom at home and that's it?
They know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
They support my journey. And even the time I was arbitrarily arrested, when I was spent about 87 days in prison, the letters I got from my children gave me more strength. I remember one of the letters that came from my daughter was informed to then, was written that you're my Tajamuka warrior. You know, they appreciate me, they love me for who I am. Even my son, who's in grade 7 now, always tells me that, Mama, I know you're fighting for a better Zimbabwe for me and my children. And I always laugh at him. They say, "You thinking of children, you're only 12, you know." My kids appreciate me. And the funny part that I realized actually this year is that they hardly even call me mama anymore. Most of them call me Pres or President or Mambokadzi, you know. And then I go like, "Hey, guys, I'm still your mother. You should call me mama." They say, "No, no, 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 you're a president, you're a mother." So they appreciate me, they encourage me. Even sometimes when I tire, there's a time when I just say, so Zimbabwe, it's draining. And then they'll go, "If you stop, who will do it?" So I love the support that I get from my children. They give me strength to go on, and I actually fight more because I want them to have a better future. And when I just talk of my children, I'm not just talking of my biological children, but anyone who's in the age group of being my child is actually my child. And I actually do take care of a number of girls, especially those who fall prey to teenage pregnancies, because I understand I'm different from a lot of people. I got my youth cut off because I was raped, not because I never had a boyfriend when I was in school, but it was a situation that just came into my life. But I refused to be a victim. I told myself I was a survivor. And to date, I mentor rape victims. I turn them from being victims to being survivors. I take care of a lot of teenage mothers. I give them social support. I take care of those who have been chucked out of their houses, because I know their pain. I know what they go through. But I always encourage parents that when a teenage girl gets pregnant, just don't throw them out of their house. Try and understand where they're coming from, know their story, and find ways of helping them. Because throwing them out of the house is not the solution, because you chuck them out to predators, and they end up not having a destiny, not having a life, and they end up feeling useless and used. At the end of the day, as mothers, we're supposed to understand our children and be there for them, even if they've done so much wrong to us, or we think that they have erred, because it is not every child who gets pregnant who indulged in sex willingly. Some are actually victims of rape, and we should be able to understand that as mothers.
I hear you. Okay, so when you were arrested, the part that I was saying that when I got to know about your name, it's the 87 days that you spent in Chikurubi. Besides letters from your children, Linda, what kept you going? Because I remember your bail kept being postponed. There was always something happening, and that kept you there. And you ended up in the male prison. What kept you going during that time?
What kept me going is my conviction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just something that is inside me that says I've got a role to play to ensure that we move over to a better Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a certain level of clarity that I have that a lot of people do not have. I understand that all the problems that we have started in 1980. There are a lot of people do not appreciate that. When the war liberators came from the war of liberation, I suppose they were just power hungry. They did not have a plan. They did not know exactly what they were fighting for, because they just came in, adopted the Smith regime system, never tried to amend it, never tried to reform it. And that is the reason why we are in such a mess. We don't have people who are clear about what exactly they want to transform, what exactly that they want to change. And that is what I'm clear about. We need to change the system. Even if we change the name of the ruling party, even if we change the faces of who are in power, and as long as we do not change the system, we will continue swimming in the same dark, murky waters, crying about the same problems and the same things over and over again. Why do we have municipal police still harassing vendors in the streets? It's because of the system that we are using that was created in the Smith regime that people cannot sell in the streets. Yet, 40 years after independence, Zimbabwe is a highly informal economy, and we're supposed to have laws that protect informal traders. But we don't have that, because the bylaws that are being used in most councils are actually from the 70s era. Why are people still voting for councillors who do not even protect their interests? Is what boggles me, and is what I'm trying to advocate for. That you should vote for a person who you know. You should vote for a person who will represent your interests, and that is not happening. So I feel that I have got a role to ensure that people are aware of why they vote. I've got a role to depolarize Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been a two-party system since 2000. And the polarization led to so much hate. so much vilification, so much toxicity in our political economy. We cannot even have a conversation without throwing in party names, without throwing in party president names, because the type of politics that people have known since 2000 is the politics of throwing stones, politics of excessive propaganda, politics of skullduggery, tomfoolery, and that has to stop. We need to get to a stage where we start saying, what is it that we need to do as Zimbabweans? How do we have collective effort? How do we speak with one voice to ensure that we develop our country? Because what we need at this juncture is to develop Zimbabwe. We need economic development. We need sustainable human development. We need sustainable economic growth. But we will not get that as long as we continue being antagonistic towards each other, as long as we continue throwing stones at each other. I was a member of the MDC since 2000. And the politics that I knew was the politics of hate. The politics of saying, you get away. Because Morgan Tsvangirai, the late Morgan Tsvangirai and the late Robert Mugabe, were always throwing stones at each other. And I think that at a certain stage, Zimbabweans just got to a stage of thinking that we have to insult each other to show that I'm opposition, I'm the ruling party. But we can work together in our diversity to build Zimbabwe. Differing in political opinion or political ideology does not mean enmity. It's just different ideas. And I believe that everyone who's a political party leader or political party member wants what is best for Zimbabwe. But we just have a different way of wanting to get where we want to get to. But that does not mean that we should hate each other or insult each other. So what got me going was the realization that I was just not in prison to be there to cry. I actually went in there and made a difference to the workers. To the prisoners. When I went into prison, prisoners were being given food that is inedible. They were being treated like slaves that we see in the slave movies. I got in there and changed all that. I led the first protest at the Chikurubi female prison. That is the reason why I was moved to Chikurubi maximum prison, because they thought that I was wayward. They thought that I did not respect the female prisoners. They had to remove me from them because I didn't Phiri. But for me, every chance that I get to change lives, I use it, and I use it wisely. I did not pity myself. I did not cry whilst I was in prison. But what I tried to do was to represent the interests of those who were in prison at that particular time. I believe that I am at a certain position at every moment in my life to make a difference. And when I got into prison, there were a lot of ladies who were there. Some had gone for even 5 years on bail. But when I got out, I managed to get legal help for those women, and their cases were heard. Some were now out on bail. Some of their cases were actually done. So for me, every moment that I pass in my life is for a reason. And I don't believe that I'm being castigated or I'm being punished, but I believe that there's a reason why I get to wherever I am at a particular time. And I'll tell you that the last 7 days I spent at Chikurubi Maximum Prison made me stronger, made me appreciate my resilience level, and that I can go through anything. And there's nothing that anyone can put me through that I've never been through. I've been brutalized, I've been abducted, I've been beaten up, I've been oppressed. I've just gone through everything. I've been raped. So for me, I think God made me go through all that to build character, because I understand a lot of things. And a lot of people don't even understand why I can even hold my phone when people are trolling me and insulting me on Twitter and actually laugh it out. Because there's nothing that you can do to me. There's nothing that you can do to me, Linda Masarira, that will make me angry, because I don't have the time to get angry. The time that I've got is to spread the message of love, spread the message of peace, spread the message of hope, and say, together we can rebuild Zimbabwe. Together we can work together in our diversity and make sure that we do right by Zimbabwe for the posterity of our country.
Okay. You then had a stint as spokesperson for the MDC team. What were lessons learned from there?
The lessons I learned is what we see when we are followers and what it is up there are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot of lessons. I learned about the hypocrisy in our opposition. not just in the MDCT, but including in the MDCA. And for me, I think it was an opportunity to see the political dynamics with a broader perspective. Lessons have been learned, and I'm trying to correct that. And I feel that we have to be sincere as politicians on what we stand for. We don't need to just be power hungry and agitate people for our own selfish interests.
Mm.
At the end of the day, it just got me thinking, why after the GNU, the MDC lost so many seats? And I realized that in the MDC, it's just been about power. But for me, my days as the MDCT spokesperson made me grow politically, made me mature, and made me see politics from a different angle. That is when I truly realized that we really need to work towards reuniting efforts of all political parties and stop the politics of patronage, politics of personalities, and just try to do what is right by Zimbabweans. That is the biggest lesson that I learned during my time at the MDCT. And for me, it was an opportunity that I appreciated. It also helped build my brand, and I don't regret that. But it was also a journey for me to understand the political dynamics in Zimbabwe.
Your relationship with Dr. Thokozani Kupe now, do you guys still talk?
Oh, yes, we do. We do. We do talk. There's no one that I don't speak to in politics in Zimbabwe. I think I'm one of the very few politicians who speaks to anyone because I'm just a cool person. Contrary to what people think about me on social media. I'm actually happy people. I talk to everyone. I talk to Nelson Chamisa. I talk to Thokozani Kupe. I talk to everyone who wants to talk, who wants to share ideas on how to get Zimbabwe functioning again, because I believe in our Africanness that charachimwa chitswanye inda for us to be able to overcome the challenges that we're facing in this country. Every idea matters, and at the end of the day, even if we have different political ideologies, different political ideas and preferences, but at the end of the day, every idea matters if we really want what is best for Zimbabwe.
What are your thoughts on the Chamisa versus Dr. Thokozani Kupe issue? Because you have...
I think it's...
You have...
It is an unnecessary fight. Very unnecessary. It has further divided the people of the MDC. And I still believe that if they could console each other when Chamisa's mother passed on, I don't see any reason why they're failing to sit on the table and iron their differences and reunite their party. But if they can't reunite their party, we're there, Labour economists and African Democrats, and we are ripping off everything that is turning away from them. So at the end of the day, you see that we as an alternative party, we are actually at a better advantage of creating a formidable opposition force, because they have shown the world that they're just after power and they cannot iron out their differences. And that is what is very important. Leadership is just not about being on top, but it is also about being able to sit down and say, okay, takatadzirana apa nepapa, and having conflict resolution. But they have failed to have conflict resolution, Marivega. And then what quickly comes to mind is, if any one of them maybe ascends to power, will they be able to deal with issues to do with conflict in our country when they failed to do it at a party level? I mean, those are questions that come to my mind. I gladly left the MDC after I was fired, because I thought that there was a lot of negative energy going around. Time that is supposed to be used to encourage people to be development oriented is spent throwing money around for antagonism, which is totally unnecessary. We've got a lot of issues that are going on in our country, things that we're supposed to be debating that are progressive. And I mean, we can't continue talking about Thokozani has done this, Chamisa has done this, etc., etc. I mean, it's draining. And for me, it was unnecessary and there was just too much negativity. I'm a person who believes in positivity. And for me, positivity is liberty. And I got to a stage where I said, this is not my fight. This is not my path. So I will leave these people to do what they're doing. And I'll tell you as I'm sitting here, I don't even follow what they're doing because it has got no interest. It has got no value whatsoever to the national interest or what we want to achieve as Zimbabweans.
Mm. But you talk about being fired. Why did you take that picture though? You were a spokesperson for MDCT and you took a picture went viral. I don't know if you even took it or who took it or what the idea was, but a picture went viral of you ugoge iZambia yezanu PF. Why? What was that about?
What is in a piece of cloth? I was in a rural area, in a ZANU-PF stronghold, and I had to protect the interests of the people I love.
Mm.
I cannot leave people in an unsafe condition just because I'm an MDCT spokesperson. That is the polarity that I'm talking about, the toxicity of thinking that if I rep a Zambia, then I become ZANU-PF. Like, seriously. And then people claim that they're the most educated in the world when they make a hullabaloo about a piece of cloth. Right now, I'm the lead president, but I still wear my MDCT t-shirt. Does that make me an MDCT person?
Mm.
Does that make me an MDCT person? No. We just try to measure on minors, maybe because we don't have anything to do. But for me, I think that was actually a nonsensical move from the MDCT to try and fire me. But now I understand them because they actually asked me to resign and I refused. And I said, I'm not going to resign because Kalipani Pugen was my deputy, then wanted my position. And they're the ones who were pushing Dr. Thokozani Kope to fire me. And I told them to go ahead and do whatever they wanted to do. Not that I didn't have a plan, because I had already started negotiating with former trade unionists on forming another party because I had realized that MDCT Nara Izere Mepo. For me, it was my journey. Like I've said, and that I regret, I don't. Because by the time I got fired, I think we were halfway through writing the lead ideology. And doesn't it bug you how I managed to launch a political party 1 month after being fired? I knew what I was doing and I knew where I was going. And if that was my destiny, then that was it. I was not even bothered. I did not even challenge it. I could have even challenged the firing because it was unconstitutional, but I didn't because I had my own journey and I believe in me. And I don't believe that I needed maybe Dr. Thokozani Kope, the MDCT tag, for me to stand for what I believe in. I believe in my conviction. And tying that rep did not mean that I'm a ZANU-PF member. I've never had a ZANU-PF card in my life. I've never voted for ZANU-PF. So whatever people think will remain in their heads and it will never change what is in me or what is in my head. I believe in unity of purpose. At the end of the day, if we want to look at everyone wants to be very judgmental on why I repped that Zambia, I'll ask them the same question. Don't you have relatives who support ZANU-PF? Don't you talk to them? And why does it become an issue that I was repping a ZANU-PF Zambia? We go to churches, different churches, and we worship with people from ZANU-PF. Have you stopped worshiping with them because they're from ZANU-PF? Or you just want to make an issue because it was a prominent person who repped the ZANU-PF Zambia? It is not necessary. We need to stop the hate. People from ZANU-PF are not people of a lesser God. People from the MDC are not people from a lesser God. People from LEAD are not people from a lesser God. We need to cultivate love and let love lead. That is why in 2018, there was a campaign which was done where political party leaders from the youth were asked to exchange t-shirts. They exchanged from the MDCT, from ZANU, from MDCA, they not on. Why didn't it become an issue that youth leaders have exchanged t-shirts? But it became an issue that Linda was tying in Zambia and she took pictures of herself. The oxymoron of it.
Are you an intentional controversial person, Linda, or you're simply misunderstood?
I'm simply misunderstood. And I'll always be me. I don't pretend to be who I am. If you do not like me for who I am, then that's your problem. because I am not a pretender. I'm not a one person who presented this side and tomorrow present that side. The Linda that I was in 1990s, the Linda that you see in 2000, the Linda you saw in 2010, the Linda that is sitting here, and the Linda you see in 2030, 2040 going forward. I don't pretend I am real like that. I don't have time to hate anyone. I am just myself, and I speak my mind without fear and favor. The problem with Zimbabweans is they want you to align to a certain thought process for you to be acceptable. I don't need to be acceptable to people who do not understand where they're coming or going. Those who understand me will understand me. Andikwanisa kufadza munhu wese, handisi Mwari. Mwari ndiye angatonzi anofanira kufadza munhu wese. But those who understand me will understand me. And those who want, they'll go and understand those who they want to understand. And that's the philosophy that I live by. I am not a person who will come and lie to you that I will do things that I can't do. No, I speak of practical things. I'm a realist. I know my realism hurts a lot of people because they're used to being strong to their egos. I'm not that person. I speak the truth without fear or favor, whether you like it or not. That is just the person that I am. Because I believe that only the truth will set us free as a people. Only the truth will set Zimbabwe free. And as long as we are still afraid of the truth, we are not going anywhere. We need to be real with ourselves. We need to face the elephant in the room, which is our fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of transforming the system. And as long as we believe that those who come and lie to us with fantasies are our saviors, then good luck. You're not yet ready for the change that you cry for. I will tell you the truth, whether you want it or not. And I will say it unapologetically. That's just who I am.
Are you a tribalist?
Not at all. Why do you think that I'm a tribalist?
You touched some storm a while ago because you said there's something about Ndebele people, and I think people came at you about Ndebele people not jumping up for demonstrations, I think taking action and not being part of a greater plan. And people came at you and you were labeled in some sectors as a tribalist. So I'm asking you, are you a tribalist?
Actually, that article was written by Ostalos Gift Siziba and Reverend Angeston Subanda actually helped me to deal with that issue because they were fighting their own wars, those boys. They were trying, they thought Chimuti, and they thought that if they said Linda is a tribalist, this happens in politics. They were politicking with my name. But I can prove to you that this woman is not a tribalist. I was born of a Xhosa mother. I was born in Matebeleland. My boyfriend is 100% Ndebele. Most of my relatives are Ndebele. And how do I become a tribalist? When I was fighting for labor justice at the NRZ, I was not fighting for me. I was fighting for every worker. I was based in Bulawayo, where 80% of the workers were in Ndebele. If I was a tribalist, would I have fought those wars? Would I have thrown my life in the line of danger for those people? I think that is my answer to you.
Okay. You get trolled a lot. People say a lot about you. People come at you about what you say. They say you've sold out. They talk about your physical features. How does that, you did say before, you mentioned before that it's water off your back. You don't concentrate on it. But how, does it not at some point get too much? Do you not feel like it's too much?
I don't feel like it's too much. I actually feel sorry for those who troll. I've realized that a lot of them have got social issues. They're going through a lot of things that they can't deal with. We have to understand that the social fabric is broken in Zimbabwe. And, you know, sometimes I feel the passion of the words when I'm reading them, that this person was actually passionate when they were typing it. They're trying to let go of something that's bugging them. And I really feel sorry for them because I don't think that there's any sane person who would type some of the vitriol that I see on social media, but I understand their pain. Things are not well in Zimbabwe. So sometimes I just laugh it off, but sometimes I introspect and say, what is it that created such monsters? Because I view those people as monsters. And sometimes I ask myself, do these people have a family? Do they have children? And for those who do not even use ghost accounts, I say, what are the children thinking, seeing their father typing something like this, or their mothers typing such nonsense like this? And then I go back to how we were raised, our education system. Remember when we were growing up, I think there's some people who never went out of that kuchinyira mode, that primary mode that a lot of people my generation went through at school, that they still have it in their heads even as adults. And they think but you don't achieve anything from kutuka. You don't achieve anything. I will tell you the truth, I'm one person who will never insult a person because I don't have the time. What do I benefit from insulting a person? And it's a question that I'll ask even those who are watching. What changes? Nothing. So I'm not even affected about what people say. Some say I'm ugly. So what? If I'm ugly, how does kushata kwangu affect you? You want to talk about my blackness? I'm proudly black. I'm a melanin queen. I'm a rosy queen. I'm reality myself. I don't care what you say. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't change me. I actually feel sorry for you who waste your time and your data trying to insult me and you think I'm bothered. I'm not. I'm not. But at the end of the day, I think most of those people, those who troll, actually need rehabilitation. And sometimes I look at the Trips map. You know, the Trips map always shows you the location of most of the people you're interacting with. And I realize that most of these people who interact with me, especially on Twitter in Europe, they're in the States, they're in China. And one other conclusion that I made is most of these people are lonely. They don't have anything to do. So sometimes maybe they find solace or they find comfort in insulting me to deal with their own issues. But I really do feel sorry for you. Especially those who feel so much hate for me, that you need to get out of your hate. Hate is a demon. You don't need it. You actually live a longer life by smiling and loving. And that is what you need. You need so much love. May love be with you so that you be a better person.
Why do you think women that want to take positions of power, or be it in politics, be it in the corporate world anyway, in Zimbabwe, face so much backlash and negativity?
It's not every woman, but it's the women who are powerful, who articulate, and who know that what they're doing are always attacked. Because it's not every woman who's attacked in politics. Zimbabwe is a very patriarchal country with a very patriarchal dominant system. And the men in power don't want anyone who will take away their power or their limelight. It was not easy for me to get where I am right now. I faced a lot of challenges. I remember when I formed Zimbabwe Women in Politics Alliance in 2016, I was a PDP executive member then, which was led by Tendai Biti. I remember when I did interviews for women in politics and everything, I would be called, you have violated the party rules. Why were you talking to the media? And then I'll say, I was not talking as a PDP member. I was talking as a sweeper member. So you start seeing the marginalization where it starts from. They expect you, if you're in a political party, to stop doing things for your organization because you belong to that particular political party. They start trying to oppress you and to silence you. And I refused all that. That is the reason why most women are failing to make the mark. They'll want to comply to what they're being told in a certain political party, because every political institution has got its own rules. So at the end of the day, women's voices continue to be suppressed. They're not independent. And it's sad that there are a lot of vibrant women who had so much potential who have just gone so silent. And my heart aches. It aches for them. I'm trying to reach out to them to tell them, okay, fine, you're in this political party, or maybe you're a National Working Council member, but you have lost your power, you have lost your grip. the men in Zimbabwe will use you, abuse you, and dump you. They will use you for their own agendas. Let's go back to Manjuru. Manjuru was just promoted because there's a person who wanted to be elbowed out by Mugabe. And once that person was elbowed out, when Mai Mugabe rose up, she felt that Manjuru was a threat, used other women to elbow her out. Women continue to be pawns in a game of chess. Look at what happened to Dr. Thokozani Kupe. So at the end of the day, as long as women cannot define who they are, cannot stand firm for what they believe in, they'll continue saying, why are women treated like this? My question would be, why do women allow themselves to be treated like that? When I realized that there is no political party that is respecting women, their interests and their issues, I sat down with fellow women and other men who understood the vision that I have and said, it's time to form a party that will respect women's issues, that will give women space. And that is why right now we're the only party in Zimbabwe with 50-50 gender representation at all levels of our structures. And last month, we actually made a resolution at our National Executive Committee meeting that we are scraping off the Women's Council. We are giving every person, whether male or woman, equal opportunity, equal chance to be at the highest level of leadership in the party. Women have continued to be marginalized in political parties because of the Women's League, Women's Assembly, and everything else. Why do we need women's leagues and assemblies when women constitute more than 64% of the population in Zimbabwe? Why? That is where the structural marginalization starts from. And in the male-dominated parties, they will tell women that your role is at the Women's League or the Women's Assembly. That is where you're supposed to lead, where there is no power. But at Labour Economists and African Democrats, we're saying we're all equal. Let's come and fight for those seats, everyone, whether male or female. There's no need for us to have a women's council, or a women's league, or a women's league. We are all equal, and we're going to comply to the tenets of the Constitution of Zimbabwe in the way that we're going to be doing our party business in terms of equality and non-discrimination.
What do you wish people knew about you?
I wish people knew that I'm just a cool person. I am. I'm just happy people. I don't have time to fight with anyone, but I will say the truth without fear or favor. That I will. Contrary to what most people think, that I'm a bitter person, bitterness does not even exist in me. I smile a lot. I'm always happy. I found inner happiness, inner joy. A lot of people have tried to crush me, but they failed. And I always...
We just got muted.
Sorry for that. I don't have a problem in expressing myself, and I'll always express myself truthfully because I believe that the truth will set Zimbabwe free.
What lies in your future? Are you going to run in 2023? What great things lie in your future?
The great things that lie in my future is that I'm going to be the first female president of Zimbabwe. That is the greatest thing that lies in my future. I have seen it, I've dreamt about it, I believe it, and I will live it. Nekuti ndinoziva kuti ndini makanika weZimbabwe. I am fixing things, though a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of things that I'm doing, and things are changing by the day because of my input. And one day I'll finally get into that place of authority and power and ensure that Zimbabwe will never be the same again.
Oh, okay. So you're running 2023?
Yes, I am.
Linda, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. You know, my royal thoughts, so from one queen to another, I think you're a very powerful woman. You have lived through a lot. And to see you still smiling and preaching love, and I don't know if many people have the strength. And my idea of talking to you was to hear a side, because I think everything that we usually hear about you is somewhat tailor-made. I wanted to know the person behind, and to see that there are women in Zimbabwe who are standing up and speaking out and not saying maybe what everybody wants to hear, but still sticking to their guns and saying it. That in itself is a lesson for, I think, for the rest of us, that we are queens and queens fix each other's crowns and we support each other. Zimbabwe is our country. We love it, and we do need to fix it. And we put people in power, in positions of power, meaning that we have the power. And it's only when we dig deep and decide where are we putting this person, and if this person is going to go there and represent us. Linda spoke about how we choose our councillors, and you know that's a thing for me. We have people in power and they don't represent us, because once they get there, the cars take over, PTMs, what, and then we are forgotten about. So this conversation makes me realize that we need to maybe focus on something else than throwing stones at each other and assuming many things, or just being full of hate. I think we need to get to a point. She did mention in her conversation before, we need to get past this anger, because I think our anger, there's many things, but kumele sikulungise and move forward, because I don't think we'll move forward. So like she said, let love lead. I don't think I can say anything else. Let love lead. Linda, thank you so much. Love to your children, and to everybody watching. Thank you so much for watching Queendom with the Empress. Please stay safe, everybody. Please mask up, sanitize, socially distance, everything. With the holidays coming up, we need you around, so please stay safe. From me and everybody else behind the scenes, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Sites W across all media platforms. We are there, and if you want to know what's happening, you know what to do. Sites W. Bye, everybody.
Bye.